Hey everyone, welcome. Let's see, can you see me? All right, I don't see myself. Okay. All right, everyone, welcome. Let me see. I don't see myself. Let me just refresh this. All right, there we go. All right, you probably could see me. I couldn't see myself though. So anyway, welcome everyone. Let's see. Welcome everyone to the space. And yeah, can you everyone see me? Okay, so great. So you can see me. Let's go ahead and start adding any prayer requests and aspirations to begin with. Welcome to anyone who's new to the space. So good to have you here. This is our guided practice around medicine Buddha. We don't need anything, any text or anything. This is something that I guide us through. We start with any prayer requests, aspirations that we're holding, and the prayer requests for ourselves, for those around us, for loved ones, for the world, whatever it feels appropriate. You don't always have to have you don't always have to post something, but as we begin the practice, it's really important that you just have that what you need really, in the forefront of your mind as we begin the practice. And prayer is just, again, really important. Just in my practice and what I do, I think if you want to get free, you have to learn to pray. You have to be a prayerful person. And I know people bring a lot of baggage to that word prayer, depending on, what kind of religious, spiritual community you were raised in. I know we get into Buddhist communities, and then we have, a lot of pushback around prayer, but prayer is an important part of Buddhist practice as well. For me, prayer is the practice of vulnerability. It's opening to my desires, my needs, my wants. It helps me to articulate my dream for my life, for the lives of people around me, and a dream for the world. This dream is really based upon love, compassion. Basically, it's based upon this wish for everyone to be free, to have what they need, for everyone to be safe, to have access to the resources that they need in order to be well and happy. It's a wish for sustainability, right? So that we can actually live in union with the phenomenal world instead of trying to dominate the phenomenal world. And particularly, I think about the environment, I think about other people, and other groups that we're trying to dominate. But how do we learn to live, in a relationship where we're not depleting people and resources around us, but we're learning to use and to offer back to relationships, to the phenomenal world, to the environment, the land, instead of always taking. And having what we need also means that we have the capability to grieve, to do mourning, right? To touch into our sadness, to touch into the sadness of the world, to see it, to experience it, to let it go. I hope some of you were able to join us last night for my dialogue with my, just like my good friend, Sonia Renee. And we really talked about how love and the disruption of love and why love is necessary and needed. If you want to see that dialogue, just go to my Instagram page. It should be accessible, I think, even if you don't have an Instagram account. I'm not for sure. But it's right on my Instagram page, and you can just kind of look at that. And if you're on my newsletter, we'll also put that into my newsletter when we send one out again. But, just, real love, real authentic love, right? Like love, when it's practiced in the most authentic form, is revolutionary, right? When we talk about revolutionary, we're talking about the complete overthrowing of systems of violence. We're talking about leaving a system of contraction and domination and entering into, another experience of freedom, of openness, of sustainability. Systems aren't bad. It's just when systems become dominating, when systems are these structures, system is just, these collected ideologies and paradigms and beliefs, that form a way for people to think and to behave that really, come at the expense, if it's a dominating system, that comes at the expense of other people. And also it comes at our own expense, right? This is how we should behave. This is how we should think. This is how we should be, right? And then from that baseline, we go in and create institutions. So we create cultures and societies and organizations and schools and fields of study, that are based upon the systematic way of behaving and thinking. Revolution asks us to completely cut through that. It asks us to enter into a sustainable way of living that's not based upon these preconceived notions and assumptions. It's about being in a relationship to the world and to the phenomenal world as it is unfolding in the minute, right? And moment to moment. I mean, this is a dharma, right? I may have just given you a Marxist, reading of Buddha Dharma, but to be in a relationship to the moment as it arises, right? To have no expectations, to have no agenda, but to say, okay, this is happening, right? This is happening. And that reminds me of my root teacher, Nrola Rinpoche, who said that, whatever happens, happens, whatever comes, comes. I don't need anything at all. And that's, for me, I think sometimes when you have a teacher, I know some of you have studied very closely with teachers in the past, and for a long time, some of you have been with teachers for a long time, and sometimes you don't remember everything a teacher has given you, has offered you, but sometimes it just boils down to like a handful of really literally just like these simple teachings that you hold on to and you continue to train in. You continue to train in these really simple teachings. And it's one of the simple teachings from my teacher is that, whatever happens, happens. And that's a way that I'm being invited to accept everything that arises. And acceptance isn't condoning, it's not getting complicit, it's not apathy. If you have studied my work, and particularly if you've read through Love and Rage, that when I say acceptance, I mean that like we have to be in relationship to the phenomenal world as it is, not as we wish it to be. I wish the world was anti-capitalist, and I want the world to be anti-oppressive and anti-capitalist, and to have different systems that we can live in that's more freeing and creative instead of contracting. That's what I want the world to be, but it's not how the world is right now. So for my activism to be sparked, I have to actually come back and touch into the world as it is. To touch into the world as it is now, I have to be willing to let my heart break. You have to let our hearts break, and that's part of the healing. And by the way, all of this is in line with the Medicine Buddha Tantra as well. You know, um, the writings, the teachings around the traditional Medicine Buddha has been an anti-oppressive, anti-authoritarian tradition, which no one ever talks about, no one ever points out, but I mean, it's right there, in the writings, but that healing for me, the healing of the trauma of systematic abuse and the trauma and transhistorical trauma first has began with allowing my heart to break, to understand that, yeah, and this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Whatever happens. Well, this is happening, right? The racism that I experience is happening. The homophobia that I experience is happening. The ableism that we experience is happening, right? The ageism that some of us experience is happening. The capitalism, right? Particularly the ways in which we're never good enough in the system of capitalism is happening, like all and so forth and so on, right? This is happening, right? And I have to develop a relationship or begin to experience the brokenheartedness around this being the truth of things, right? Because though we are emanating out of the ultimate reality, we are situated and embodied within the relative, right? And we have to negotiate the relative. It's easy, it's easy to perform an embodiment of the ultimate. When I say performance it's intellectualizing, right? And basically what that says, what that looks like is just people walking around saying, everything's empty. Everything is just like, everything is an illusion. Of course, everything is an illusion, right? And you can say that, like we can read, many, many, many books about emptiness, right? And the ultimate, I love, as I love the Heart Sutra, but while I can say that the nature of all phenomena reality is empty, including all the systems that I struggle with, including identity, the only way for me to experience the ultimate is to first move through and embody the relative, right? I have to show up to the relative world and be here in the relative world and experience the relative world. And then I begin to earn the experience of the ultimate once I've moved through the relative, right? And I know when you've moved through the relative, So if you go up to me talking about, one of my favorite lines of this kind of ultimate performance is when people say, well, I don't see race, and then you do racist things. So at what point do we just throw in the towel and say, what, I'm just gonna have to deal with the relative, right? I'm just gonna have to deal with this and get through it. And then let my heart break, because in the heartbreak, the joy is there, the wisdom is there, the kindness, the equanimity all begins to arise through the spaciousness of experiencing the heartbreak. When we're not experiencing the heartbreak actually just becomes trauma. It becomes trauma for us to work through. Well, it becomes trauma that actually most of us don't work through, actually. That trauma, that heartbreak as trauma resurfaces at the moment of death, as we're transitioning into the spirit world and Bardo, when the consciousness, when this energy, when this quality of knowingness, this consciousness begins to kind of migrate out of the physical form. in a way, it's not that we're moving anywhere. It's that there's a part of the consciousness that begins to awaken. It's a part of the consciousness. Well, let me reverse that and say there's an expression of the physical form that can no longer hold certain experiences of the consciousness, and that's what we call death, right? It can no longer contain the consciousness, and so the consciousness breaks out, right? And so we start dying, and then we start, I guess, transitioning. Again, we're not going anywhere. I know I use these words for transitioning, but you're not going anywhere. You're just, everything is happening right here, right now, in this moment. So it's more like I just changed the channel. It's like sitting in front of the TV, and it's like, oh, I want to be somewhere else, right? Instead of like leaving and getting up and going somewhere, you just change the channel to something else. And this is what death is. We change the channel, and now you're in something else, right? Because the physical body can no longer contain the consciousness. The consciousness requires certain roots, certain prerequisites, if we could say. And then at that moment of transition, the mental, energetic aspect of trauma and heartbreak reveal itself more strongly, because the body, the physical body, isn't there grounding that trauma and disrupting that trauma from pure consciousness. So we devolve, we're experiencing pure consciousness, and that pure consciousness means that we experience the pure trauma and the heartbreak, and that begins to define, along with other emotional energies, begin to define how we transition through this re-emerging into the spirit world, Bardo world, the spirit Bardo. So it behooves us to do as much work on the heartbreak as possible, but it also behooves us not to say that, oh, I can do this another time. I've heard people say, oh, I'll just, this is going to be my work for the next time. I wouldn't say that. The incredible thing about the human body and the human realm, or it's any incarnation with the faculties to be conscious and to have agency. Doesn't necessarily mean human. There are different, various, multiple kinds of life forms across different worlds, that equate with human. We don't call it, we don't even look human, but it's the faculty to experience, to know, and to think in these more complicated ways around existentialist thought, like what is existence? How do you how can you evolve and all that? So that's the quality that we have in the human realm, and we have this incredible opportunity to do the work of moving through a lot of material, to understand this material, to let go of things, to process things, to dig our way through the relative, so we develop more and more of an experience of the ultimate. That experience of the ultimate is what guides our transition from the physical world into the energy spirit world in Bardo. So we do whatever we can now, and knowing too that nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. We make a lot of assumptions about what's happening next, but nothing is guaranteed. So if nothing's guaranteed, then what do we do? What do we hang our hope on? As we talked about last week, where's our hope? Where our hope is in the practice, in what's happening now. in this moment, connecting to the deity, connecting to the essence of my mind, right? Doing the emotional labor of moving through the heartbreak, the hate, the loneliness, the sorrow, right? Moving through everything that we consider to be obstacles to our happiness by experiencing everything. Experience and having the willingness to experience is the doorway to liberation. It's the doorway. It is also the cause. Experiencing creates the causes and conditions for us to meet over and over again the resources that we need to continually direct us towards awakening. Life after life, existence after existence, our willingness of experiencing, of moving through the stuff, letting go, right? Embodying the relative, but using that embodiment to have an experience of the ultimate, that is paving the way for our, awakening. If you're not doing this work, you don't have to be a Buddhist. There are many people who do not identify as Buddhists who are really doing incredible work around this, that I've met in this life, but it's not about being a Buddhist, and I know many of you aren't Buddhists, but those of you who are Buddhists, I want you to disrupt the ways in which we have this elitism around identifying as Buddhists. Like we have somehow found the golden path. We have. This beautiful path towards awakening. We're not the only ones. We're not the only religion. We're not the only spirituality moving towards that awakening. But knowing that, and just knowing that, Dharma is this really incredible vehicle that we're using, right? But there are other incredible vehicles in this world. Dharma is just this set of symbols and ideas and paradigms. Actually, in the ultimate, there's no such thing as Buddhism, right? In the spirit world, there's often no such thing as Buddhism as well. But these are things that humans have assembled, as a mechanism to trigger this kind of awakened consciousness, right? Which is beautiful, but it's not the only mechanism that's been assembled in this particular world system that we're moving through. So that's my interfaith talk for today, as well. So healing is all, and again, it always goes back to healing. When am I going to do the work of allowing my heart to break, right? We talk about hope. We also have to talk about hopelessness as well. The hopelessness. That's. I just. Buddhists get so concerned about how distracting hope is. Well, that's not the issue. Hopelessness is the issue for me and for the people that I come from, for my people, right? From my communities. It's like, how do we actually move through the hopelessness that many of us embody day to day, where there's no energy to move forward, to try to do something different, right? And I've been there. I've been in hopelessness. I've been in utter hopelessness, and that hopelessness turned my attention into into liberatory practices, one of which was Buddhism and meditation, right? But that is the hopelessness, the loss of, in one way, I think hopelessness is this loss of understanding of impermanence. Too, that things are changing in subtle ways. And there's also the lack of belief that there's more than this world at the same time, which we understand through Buddhism too, and other paths as well. But, that there's more than this, right? And many of us, there are many, many beings who are swallowed by the hopelessness, and that's a tough almost impossible place to be swallowed by something like that. And then we're led to make certain decisions from that place of being hopeless, experiencing hopelessness. Again, I always want to say this: hopelessness is an experience. No matter how real it is, everything is just an experience. No matter how deep and dark the darkness is, it's just an experience. Even though it's hard to say that in the experience itself. And I just want to always, in my practice, we have to, in our practice, in our morning, and I know I've told some of you this, but I'm in the process of developing a 6-month, and maybe 5 months, but at least a 5-month course on morning, on breathing, hopefully starting this summer, where we're going to be really, I'll be introducing a lot of new practices for folks to really systematically work through the grief. And I think as we move through into the spring and then getting into the summer, I think that the grief is going to be heavy for us, no matter how many vaccines people have, and no matter what opens up for us again. I think the grief will prevent many of us, the grief as trauma will prevent us from really, getting back into our lives. But, in any case, I wanted to say is that we have to grieve those of us who do not survive the hopelessness. We have to grieve those who don't survive the hopelessness. And the thing that I appreciate about the teachings of Buddha Dharma is the hope, right? The hope that we're given to understanding that, we're moving through things from existence to existence. And so it may be dark in this one, but it may not be dark in the next. And also we have this incredible opportunity to impact, to support beings moving through darkness. I have found that in my practice, when beings are disembodied as consciousness or spirits and part of the spirit world, it becomes even more impactful. My practice becomes even more powerful, because consciousness is energy. It's an energy that's aware, and we have this incredible opportunity to influence, to impact energy, So this is why practices like we're doing right now, with Medicine Blue, that's why this is so powerful for not just for the living, but also for the dead, particularly for those beings who are still in a spirit consciousness world, spirit world, we have this incredible opportunity to offer light. And we have this incredible opportunity to help purify a little bit of karma, right? On behalf of some of these beings. But we have to mourn. We have to mourn all those that don't make it. And we have to remember. And it's not about getting lost in the heartbreak. It's about acknowledging the heartbreak and then beginning to pray and practice and act to continue to support those beings that we've lost. And lost is not really a good word either. Nothing's lost in Dharma. We don't lose anything. We may step out of the light. We will step out of wisdom and clarity, absolutely, and step into some darkness. But that darkness is just ignorance, it's delusion, but that's not a permanent. There's nothing permanent in Dharma. There's nothing that's permanent. Even though I've heard some really high-end teachings, from some really gifted scholars that, you kind of get wrapped up in those teachings and it just becomes this existential crisis, again, and I'm too old to have existential crisis. That was for my 20s. And in my 40s now. I need to do something different than having those. So let's start our practice, right? And so let's take care of some of the mourning, the grieving tonight. We're just going to call the energy of Medicine Buddha. We're going to call our benefactors. Our benefactors are going to hold us. We're going to take a risk and allow our hearts to open and break and to be held by the energy of our benefactors and of Medicine Buddha as well. And this is healing for us. This is healing for ourselves. This is healing for those who we're practicing for. Yes, I am drinking out of a mason jar because I'm in the South now. Okay, so I'm going to just come back up and start looking through and offering our prayer requests. And so let's begin our practice. Of course, we'll do some chanting and everything. And again, always just a reminder for those, if some of you split before the end, always come back and watch. Please come back and watch the recordings if they resonated with you. Please come back and watch them. So yeah, let's begin our practice. It's allowing ourselves to come into a position that feels appropriate for us to begin our practice. And if your breath is accessible today, I just want to start with a little bit of breath and then move back out into our prayers. But just shifting your attention if you can. If you can't, don't worry. Turn your attention to something that feels more neutral. But shifting our attention to the breath, just noticing the in breath and the out breath. And allowing the breath to really elongate, taking our time to inhale, taking our time to exhale. On the exhale, just releasing the tension, the tightness, wherever it feels like suffering. Just if you can't release it, just imagine that you're releasing it for now. That you're just breathing out whatever feels tough for us, and suffering and uncomfortable. Sometimes to move that really intense energy, we just need to give it permission to go. Like you literally say, okay, you can leave now. I'm going to let you go and you can leave. And 2 more breaths. And I want to now just transition into our opening mantra, Om Minla Sange Kino Soha. Om Minla Sange Kino Soha, which means, Medicine Buddha, please think of me. But as always, the word Kino can become whatever you need. So maybe it's not just Medicine Buddha thinking of you, maybe it's Medicine Buddha holding you, Medicine Buddha hold me, Medicine Buddha see me. What's the verb that you need tonight to feel well? Medicine Buddha, come sit with me. Medicine Buddha, come by here. Finding the verb that you need tonight and just reflecting on that as we begin our chanting. Min la sangye kino soha. 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 Now let's hum it a few times. Turning our attention to the space around us, taking just a moment to notice how or if the energy around you has shifted as we've called in the healing energy of Medicine Buddha or Min La Sangye, the great healer. I invite you to begin to call into the space, summon into the space your benefactors, your teachers, your guides, mentors, elders, your shamans, your rabbis, your ministers, whoever is important to you, ancestors, your lineages, calling to the space the earth, calling to the space all the elements, fire, and air, and water, and spirit. Calling into the space angels and saints and bodhisattvas and dharma protectors and buddhas, bodhisattvas. I call into my space the mother, the emanation, Dimavati, the emanation of the mother who holds us in our grief, who holds us in our loneliness. I summon her into my practice. They begin to form a circle around us, this circle of benefactors. They begin to radiate the energy of care into the circle. This energy of care begins to really begin to saturate me. It begins to slowly begin to sink into my skin, my muscles, my bones, tissue, and other organs. It gets into my bloodstream. To my lungs, I'm breathing in and out this energy of care, of deep love, deep, deep warmth. Letting this care begin to escalate the brokenheartedness, the grief that I've been holding in my heart. And within this energy of being cared for, in this act of being cared for, we begin to understand that this is the enlightened mind of the great healer of Medicine Buddha themselves, the great healer. We can experience Medicine Buddha in any way, not just as this deity that's traditionally seen, in the iconography, a blue Buddha sitting on a lotus. Medicine Buddha is much more. The great healer is an expression of who or whatever is trying to take care of us, to heal us. And this is the medicine of being cared for. And one more time, we chant the mantra of evoking Medicine Buddha. Umminla Sangye Kino Soha. Umminla Sangye Kino Soha. Umminla Sangye Kino Soha. As we sit being held by this deep energy of care, we begin to offer our prayer requests. And as we hear these prayer requests, as we hear other people's prayer requests, even if we hear ours being articulated, to allow our hearts to break when we hear the prayer requests, and to offer this brokenheartedness into this energy of care, or the essence of Medicine Buddha, however you're thinking about this, but to offer this prayer and the heartbreak itself into this energy for our benefactors, to hold, to see, to begin to move energy through our own aspirations on our behalf. So letting go, offering that prayer request, this is the prayer that we're practicing. And to all the beings who've gathered before us tonight, we begin to offer our requests. For my mom, Carol, who's in the hospital right now, healing, released from mental suffering, and my friend Ellen, who passed away recently. For her journey and transition, may she receive help and love and a fortunate rebirth. For me to find the strength to evoke and maintain my protective layers. For Amani, Medicine Buddha, offer your healing. For the courage to explore and heal from trauma, for everyone who is struggling with mental health and with isolation. For myself, strength, wisdom, compassion to help my mom and others who are suffering, including myself. Ask for prayers for my son, cousins, and all who are experiencing illness and emotional sufferings. We pray for the courage to facilitate awareness and meditation sessions. Offer prayers for my dear friend Sherry and her family as they navigate the loss of her beautiful mother, Sandra, to dementia, and for Sandra's peaceful transition into her role as an ancestor. Prayers for me to be able to rest and to grieve and care for my system, for us all to choose love over institutions, for Kristen to be free of pain. And prayers for Molly, a young girl who died today. May she have a favorable rebirth in the Pure Land or wherever she needs to be. Prayers for everyone who finds themselves in abusive relationships. Prayers for Osho's support of individuality and freedom. Prayers for my daughter and her emotional suffering. Prayers for my nephew and his struggle with anxiety and depression. Praying for gentleness towards others and myself and the courage to genuinely embrace the relative. Offering prayers for my brother MJ, who did not survive the hopelessness. May his transition bring him light. Prayer requests for myself for emotional endurance to hold sadness, disappointment, anger, and grief without creating walls and becoming resentful. Prayers to be in mutual listening relationship with others, myself, and the world for healing. Prayers for everyone who is struggling with their work. Prayers for all of us to stay tuned, turn toward the light. And continued prayers for all of those who did not survive the hopelessness, for their well-being, their survival, for their transition, for their ultimate freedom. For all who are struggling to be well. Prayers for everything that we have no power in ourselves in this moment to impact change. And so we offer the grand aspiration and prayer for all of us to be free and safe. Into the awakened mind of Medicine Buddha, and into the hands and the experiences of our benefactors who are working on our behalf to free all beings. Letting ourselves be held by the care, the love of all of our benefactors of Medicine Buddha. Feeling connected, feeling grounded, feeling supported. We allow ourselves to name the brokenheartedness, to experience the brokenheartedness, and to lean into the energy of care, the energy of not being alone, and the energy of being seen. That we are not the only ones mourning, that we are members of a collective of beings who are simultaneously mourning at the same time. Just to let the energy move and to offer the brokenheartedness over and over again to our benefactors and to Medicine Buddha. We sit and we work through the practice in the same way of just feeling and offering as we move into our mantra. Teata Bekenze, Bekenze, Maha Bekenze, Rata Sumungate Soha. O Teata Bekenze, Bekenze, Maha Bekenze, Rata Sumungate Soha. Teata Bekenze, Bekenze, Maha Bekenze, Rata Sumungate Soha. ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa te ata umbegenze begenze ma begenze razu sumungale soa Begenze, begenze, ma begenze, lazo sumunga de soa. 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 And turning our attention back to our circle of benefactors. We thank them for the love and kindness, for caring for us. And we imagine that they go back from where they came from to be with us. We turn our attention now into our final closing prayers. Shantideva's prayer, which you find in the chat box here. We recite 3 times. We begin, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, in a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, in a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. May I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, in a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all the sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May all of our aspirations come to pass. May we all be free from all the cycles of suffering. And may we disrupt and break the greatest cycle of trauma, which we call samsara. Thank you all so much for your practice tonight. Nice. All right. So thank you, everyone. Jeff, yeah, I see your question from Anne and Amy. They're wonderful. We're doing. I think they overstate my contributions to the work. I don't know if I've actually done anything for the movement. Who knows? But I deeply appreciate what they're doing to help us understand what's happening. Not just with misconduct, but just what's happening now in like American Buddhism, like what's actually happening. I think they're just like at the forefront of that. But anyhow, in any case, please come back if you like the practice. Not just come back to the group on Monday nights, but come back and watch the recording. You know, this is one of the main reasons we're here. We have recordings now that are easily accessible. So please come back and watch. I will be offering the Dharma talk for us on Wednesday evening again. And I'll be there. We're going to start with just some sitting practice from 8 to 8:30, so I'll be there a little late. But I'll come and do 8:30 and finish up for us. But anyhow, please join us Wednesday night if you want. And yeah, so keep checking the website, bumisparsha.org, for what we're doing, the Sangha. Check my website, lamarod.com, for what I'm doing as well. I think that's it. Thank you all so much. Thank you all. Please be well. And I'll see you all again very soon. If not this week, hopefully next Monday. Okay. Bye, everyone.